Again, I want to say welcome to everyone, and Dr. Jeffries obviously stated he couldn't be here, so he sends his regards, and I'll try to guide us through as best as possible for this particular meeting. It doesn't seem to be a long meeting, so we'll kind of get into it. And Ms. Ed, if you wanted to say anything, and
Again, I just like to say welcome to our home, and we look forward to coming back to your home.
Like,
so we guess we can just get started on number 2, an update on early college high school expansion. Mr. Shannon Davis is here, is going to talk a little bit about where we are in some of the process. We are at this point working with our attorneys with the all the legal matters in terms of using a building and taking over a building, making some changes to a particular building. So we are working with the MOU with our attorneys currently right now. But Mr. Davis will kind of go into some other logistical matters as well.
Basically, we're still securing a few contracts. We've started ordering some of the materials, and we're basically waiting for August 1st. I'm still hearing that is a good date for us to be able to start the demolition piece. But other than that, I mean, we're just waiting on time now. I mean, we've got a couple more contracts to put in place, but other than that, we're just waiting for August 1st to get moving. Like I say, we have some of the equipment we've started ordering, some of the furniture we've started ordering, some of the doors. We've got a meeting out there tomorrow, finalizing door schedules, things of that nature, so we can start issuing purchase orders. Got any questions?
any issues with permitting or anything like that? Or?
We are still, hopefully we'll have that pulled next week. We have.
So where does it look like we're headed with that?
Davenport is, we've secured a contract with them. We're hoping, I think Kevin Marks is on vacation this week.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 pages DPI with the chemistry lab that he needs to review. He's reviewed the entire set other than those 3. We have them up there. He's gonna look at those Monday and hopefully waiting for a phone call for the cost of the permit, and we'll be ready to secure it. We should have it in hand next week, hopefully.
Shannon, the timeline that we originally set for having the ability to put these students in there at the beginning of the second semester, which would be right after Christmas for the early college, and for our school system now, thanks to our new calendar. Does that still seem like a possibility to do, we can do that?
We're still pushing for definitely the classroom wing, the 10 classrooms, and the admin area to, we're hoping to have actually it ready to mobilize before they leave for Christmas break, so that kind of what we're hoping is to move the fiber piece over the Christmas holidays so the phones are already in place and they walk in after their holiday ready to operate.
And it'll be the following fall before the cafeteria piece gets in place, and
It will
that
be
phase 2 piece.
the following year before they mobilize. We should be out of there well before then. We're hoping February, somewhere in that time frame, we should be completed is what we're looking at.
But that would be mid-second semester for the
It would be,
students.
and we hated to put ourselves in a box not knowing a start date and
Yeah.
telling somebody that we could be ready second semester full throttle with the entire campus when we really didn't know a start date. And if something would have happened with that building and we keep pushing things back into September, and it shrinks my time frame to bring, because really the true unknowns to me on that project is gonna be that engineering piece. When we start having to jackhammer that floor for the plumbing, the sewer, and hitting something that we don't know. I didn't want to put ourselves in that predicament to have it all ready in January.
Anytime you renovate something, you never know what's unexpected.
Well, we know what the plans say, but sometimes the plans aren't as built.
Commissioner Davis?
HVAC, I know you went on and
started that, where do you stand with that part?
We have signed all the contracts. We have turned the equipment loose so that we could get that stuff moved. We haven't started any work yet.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
we wanted that, the Daikin and the VRF, the lead time was so long, we wanted to make sure that Pemberton had that on hand when we were ready. So all of their equipment is basically, the VRF piece is on hand.
And, or you probably not, but are you far enough along to know where you are in the budget or the money availability?
Again, my understanding is the 750 is what
Yes, sir.
we're gonna have. We, as of right now, feel pretty comfortable unless
Correct.
we hit a snag that we don't know about.
Any other questions?
Sounds good.
Just moving on then to number 3, the town hall presentation. We wanted to go through, before we start scheduling town halls, give the county an opportunity to kind of look at the presentation that was presented in our small group settings and see if we can get some feedback from you in terms of before we go to our town hall meetings. But this is the actual presentation we did at the actual small group sessions, the 3 small group sessions. So we'll go through it, and if you have any questions at the end and any suggestions, we'll definitely take some notes.
Okay.
So you want to go ahead?
Okay, this first slide is one I put together. This is just a snapshot, basically, of our elementary schools. As they stand, the numbers, you'll see the existing, the students. This was taken month 8, there toward the end of the school year. That was our existing students, and I've kind of color-coded them where the orange yellow is kind of the southern end, then I got Highway 58 schools, the northern end, and then right in the middle of the city, and then we got Williford, Baskerville, the Edgecombe side. We've got kind of I call it a misconception, but if you look at our numbers and then look at our capacities, is where we're sitting from a school standpoint. The ones I really want to look at and highlight are when we're looking at a new facility, the Coopers, the Nashville, which could play into part of the realignment piece when we do a realignment. Cedar Grove, Swift Creek, Red Oak, and Hubbard. Again, Coopers, if you look at those, is 635 and 656 will basically full. Nashville is 769 to 760. You can see where we're looking there. Cedar Grove, Swift Creek, of course, we've got quite a few empty seats there. That building is no way its capacity to where it used to be. Red Oak Elementary and Hubbard, we've got some room at Hubbard. If you will, go to the next slide. This is just the boundaries for the northern tier schools. Long line up there being the Franklin County and then up into Halifax and then back down here to Nashville Elementary and the 58 piece, and how wherever we build that school, looking at the numbers, how part, like I was saying, part of the Nashville piece and down 58 and back toward Hubbard could play a part in the enrollment numbers and where we're sitting currently.
You want to go back one to the facility cost index?
Yes, if you will, yeah, go back. I didn't hit the FCI. That facility cost index was the last CPI we did, basically the 10-year plan that basically tells the age of the school. Anything over 1 is basically recommended to do a build. And if you'll look, the northern end of the counties, we're looking at 137, Swift Creek 124, Red Oaks 1.84. And of course, Hubbard has some older sections, but we've got a new building there, which brings that facility cost index number down. Again, Nashville is kind of in the same boat along with Cooper's. We still got the migrant center and the gym, but the new buildings on that campus does bring the facility cost index number down.
So just looking at that, you can see that there's a necessity right there. I mean, it doesn't take rocket science to see that there's a necessity right there. Can you go back to that map you just showed?
Sure.
Is there any way, and I know there's a way you can do it through transportation, that you could put dots where all the kids are on that
Yeah,
part of that, where the kids
yeah, I'm
study?
sure.
Because that would be something that the public needs to see, where the density of the population of the students are. I know when we did that for Rocky Mount, that was amazing. I mean, you can go to one street and get 40 kids.
Right.
You know, and if we could do that, I think when you do the presentation, that would help people see that you want to put the school where the kids are.
That would sort of be enlightening.
Yeah, be enlightening.
And if you could identify the individuals, the three schools, that would be where the current three schools are.
Uh-huh. Go back to your number map just again a minute. If my math's right, your largest elementary school right now is, capacity is 760. And one of the ways we're looking at this, which is to combine those three schools, would still keep it smaller than your larger school you already had. But what sets that capacity? I mean, there have been times when some of these schools had a lot more people in that than
Sure.
what's there now,
And
than what you show as capacity.
And we were pushing at one time, Nashville, I'm not sure where we were, but, you know, we had a mobile home park.
Yeah,
We were well over 800 at Nashville at one point.
so those numbers
It's-
include no modular units then, okay?
No, sir, all the buildings, mobiles are gone from Nashville.
I mean, do all of those number of capacities mean? not
Yes, the
including-
capacity is the building
The
structure,
building,
your
yeah,
permanent
okay.
structures, yes, sir. No,
And who sets that capacity? Is it
that is the
DPI?
state, yes, ZPI. Now, again, you know, that's what I was gonna lead to.
Okay,
As class sizes go down, you've got EC, one school may have 3 ECs, that's just, you know, maximum number of kids can go in a classroom.
mhm,
So, you know, if you got an EC with 11 kids in there, of course, that kinda, you know, skews the numbers. But this is, I mean, you've got to pick a number and you've got to pick kind of where you are to kind of show you where you are from a capacity standpoint and where you are with kids.
So the room with 11 kids, the capacity number for that,
It may be 21, it may be a regular size, or now, you know, as the buildings are newer, some of these newer schools have an EC classroom,
That's
which
right.
may not have a 900 square foot, maybe a 450 square foot.
right.
And that's figured in with that capacity on your newer buildings.
Okay, so since we wouldn't know, how much wiggle room is it with DPI with that capacity?
When you say
They come
wiggle
down
room, you
and
mean
count
as
them
far
every-
as the number of kids we can put in a
Do they
classroom?
come down and count them every
No.
month or anything like that?
Again, most of these numbers are pulled from our blueprints. You know, when the architects draws them to get the DPI numbers, that's kind of what we go with.
Plus, they look at things like bathroom facilities. That's a
Right.
real big thing that they look at. How
Well, the
many?
bathroom facility is governed by code.
Right.
Right, and how many kids you can put in a facility based on the bathrooms
That's right.
themselves
It counts on
and cafeteria space.
That's right.
Right.
We do have later in the presentation the HB 90 effect in terms of lowering those class sizes, the average as well as the maximum class per class size, and that is later in the presentation as well.
so
They can also, I'm sorry, they can also keep up with your attendance on your daily average membership, and when you
Yeah.
send in your data from your data resources.
you do that
keep
by
up
school.
with that.
Yeah, we had 1,200 students at Edwards at one time, 1,200. And that same, there's nothing different. We had mobile units, but that was over capacity.
And one thing we deal with now, and of course, you know, when we start pulling in mobile units, 1 in the city and 2 in the county, now they've got the 200-foot bathroom regulations. The city rolls into the roughly, I think it's 400 foot from a fire hydrant now. They try to throw in enough stuff where no matter what your population gets to, at some point you don't have the property to be able to start moving into these buildings anymore.
a 900 square foot classroom at Benvenue would have the same capacity as a 900 square foot classroom at another school, correct? I
Basically,
mean, that's
yes,
how
sir.
DPI
Yes.
does it,
Yes.
based on square footage.
Yes.
But I remember when we built Nash Central High School, now the science classrooms are 900 square foot, but we went back, the board went back in there and they decided they were gonna have 750 square foot to save money.
Right.
And we made smaller classrooms other than the 900. And that was.
And DPI, basically the way they do it, they don't mandate, they send you your recommendations on what they want you to do.
Well, that's what I wanted you
Right.
to say. I thought
That's
that
right.
they
No,
did
they're not
recommendations,
gonna-
not mandates.
Exactly.
Okay.
They recommend you.
So is there a total, what the number of students and what the capacity is?
Yeah, down there at the
Not on
bottom.
this.
Not on, you talking about as far as the total we have as elementary kids?
Yeah.
I've got that number.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Go through. This again is some of the DPI, straight from the DPI guidelines, on some of their recommendations for elementary K-6. It's 10 acres right to start with, plus additional acre per 100 kids. That's kind of what they're recommended. Now, in saying that, that doesn't include if you have a wastewater facility, things of that nature. That adds to that. That's just strictly the square footage and the acreage needed. And we're looking at the new site at roughly a 700 to 800 ADM elementary school. And right off the bat, you're looking 17 to 18 acres without even looking at the possibility of a wastewater site or well on the campus. Some of the other things they want to look at, like to look at, is the size, how much road frontage is on the campus, the shape of the actual property, accessibility, of course, utilities, upfront cost, and what it costs to develop the piece of property. Which again is also includes slopes, wetlands, on-site water, on-site sewer. You know, how much is it gonna cost to get that school ready to build once you buy the property?
I noticed, 2 years ago, I go from my house in Dorchester to Littleton quite a bit. 2 years ago, you'd go through there and you'd see no for sale signs. Now you ride through there since we started talking about this school, and there are 5 for sale signs on large tracts of land. I hope it's coincidental, but I think
Is it on 43?
43.
343.
you just ride from Red Oak to Littleton now, and not far out of Red Oak, there are numerous signs of
Right.
large tracts of land for sale. Which means you got to fly under the radar to get your land bought,
Right.
rather than them realize you're gonna build a school and it's gonna be somewhere. But it starts there and goes out of town 5, 6, 7, or 8 miles for sale signs.
Red Oak Elementary, this is just some background of the campus itself. Again, it's first constructed in 1932. Capacity is 335. Again, it's the largest FCI we have in the school system at a 1.84. You know, looking at bringing this building up to code and the money it would cost totally exceeds the value of the building. So any renovation on that property is really not an option.
Do you have a way of assigning a dollar figure to you moved it, but what was those, what did you call them, FCI
Yeah,
number?
that is a number that is come up with, basically the way they come up with that number is basically what you're saying. What is the building worth
Right.
and what is it gonna cost to make it where it should be? And
So
it,
that's not a maintain,
No,
maintenance
that's-
cost, that's a, okay.
yeah.
I thought-
And when you say that, some of that is a cost deferred, some of it is a maintenance.
Yeah. I got you.
But it is a number
Well,
that
they're
comes up to
certainly-
where
they're
it's.
certainly parallel one another.
Exactly,
Got
they
it.
do. If you go look at the next slide. Back up, I think did we miss the acreage? Yes, here, I'm sorry. Acreage, this Red Oak acreage does include the elementary and the middle school acreage. That's pulled directly off, the county's, GIS 66.8 and what we've got. Of course, we're on Duke Energy. We are on municipal sewer on that site. Existingly, we do have wells running both campuses, but we are anticipating municipal within 2 years. Is what
How
I'm
about
looking
shorter than that?
for. Okay.
A year. And
Well,
I figured we'd be covered with two.
We
If we
had a
said 2
board
years.
meeting this morning.
All right.
You said there's looking at that site, you're saying there's 66 acres.
That,
What is
that's
the
it.
what is the state requirement for the acreage for a middle school? Is it, I know the high school's 50.
It is up, and that's a great question. I would say it starts at like 24. It goes up from the elementary
So-
because you got the athletics.
So,
piece
so
that's
I'm a
involved.
lay person, I'm sitting here listening to this in the group and I'm saying, okay, we got 66 acres
Mhm.
right now that we're gonna have water on, okay?
Mhm.
Sewer's already there, okay? 66 acres. We need 20 acres of that 66 to build an elementary school. There's still plenty of room for car lines and bus transportation, getting in and getting out and getting on the road and that sort of thing. So there's plenty of acreage there to
That's certainly an
accommodate an option for an elementary school.
Yes, sir, that's certainly an option.
Okay.
As you can see, when I printed this, that is the property line to the campus. I can't really show it that well, but you see the backyard of the Red Oak Elementary. No, that's Red Oak, that right there. That was the wastewater facility. That's the repair area where we couldn't touch, and the same thing in the bigger, larger area behind the baseball field. All of that was considered our wastewater and areas we couldn't disturb that is now freed up for future use of some sort.
Well, that gives you a feel to you lay people how much it adds when you put a wastewater treatment plant on site.
And that's kind of goes back to you, how much acres does it cost? Well, what is your intended use?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
That's why
and
this was so important.
right. The other thing I'm thinking we're looking at is that front right corner is where I think the water tower,
That's
possible for, right in that area, is where the water tower will be for municipal source.
You'll have good pressure.
Yeah.
That won't disrupt anything.
Shannon, the well that you're using for the middle school, is it out in front near Red Oak Battle Park?
The active one is, if you can go back to that slide.
had several,
I can
but
show you. We've had actually a couple, 3 wells on that site.
That's your third one,
That's the
right?
first one.
Right.
I'm not sure where that second one is. This is the active one here.
Right.
And
That's the
again,
one.
with
That's
this,
the
even with
one.
that well, we got this 10,000 gallon tank because it doesn't
Right.
yield enough water
Yeah.
to run that campus on a daily basis.
Would you see where Faulkner's is that we were talking about this morning, there in the triangle?
Yeah.
Right,
it's-
right.
Yeah. In the small part of the triangle there?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the fire department's across the
Right,
street from there.
right behind it. I have a question for
Sure.
Wayne. Mr. Dahl.
Wayne, I'm Wayne.
You were saying, is there land on this, you suggesting there is land, where would you put a new elementary on this parcel? Would you put it where the current one is, or would you put it up there on the left? Because that seems really close to the middle school, and it would take away all your fields. Except you got a lot of fields to your right, definitely.
Wayne, can I answer that? The ideal thing to do would put it directly behind it, keep the school in service until you got the new one built like we've done in southern part of the county, and then take the old school down, which would free up.
When you say behind it,
We did it at Bailey, Middlesex,
Cooper's was the last one.
Nashville too, really.
when you say behind it, you mean
Elementary.
between the two schools?
Right there.
And we got all that room.
And you probably wouldn't take that gymnasium down.
Fortunately, that gymnasium sits on the fringe of it, and it's not a bad gym by any means. It's what you've done at Bailey and Middlesex both. You kept Jim and Cooper's, I think,
And Nashville.
and Nashville, yeah. Spring Oak, right.
Yeah.
So that's a model that works real well, particularly since you've got conditioning in, I don't think that was conditioned, but the other ones are.
It's still a good facility.
Absolutely. And has a,
I just had a question, would there be any benefit
the history of that thing.
to
You take a
utilize
beating in the
Swift
butt,
Creek,
that could
given
be
that it
bad.
has the capacity for those kids from Red Oak during the time you were constructing it?
So that you could use that land.
Yeah, so that you wouldn't have to, you could demo it, and then, I have no,
Swift Creek,
this is
we're
not
gonna go
my
through Swift
knowledge
Creek as
base,
well.
but I was just wondering if, because we actually have the capacity of one of the schools,
If
if
you
there
were to
would be any
do,
benefit to
if
do
you were to
that.
do what Mr. Davis is saying, you could probably just leave them housed. You'd have a construction fence and just do a rollover during the summer.
At some point, if you did what was just discussed, you'd probably, when you demoed the old facility, that would lead you into some type of wind around system to bring cars in and out of there,
Mhm.
I would
It would be
think.
that
You would have to
space,
go
yeah.
past that little ravine though. As your footprint, wouldn't you?
No, you could accommodate that, that's not a wetland stream.
Plenty of land in there
I
for the
mean,
building.
you would incorporate that through design.
And there's a service road there at the church, there's a church,
That's
and there's a
right.
service road right there too.
Well, and yeah, I mean, they have forever had a car line issue, so to have that
I don't
extra
think we
space that
could
you're
ever
talking about
You wouldn't have
utilizing
it
the other
initially,
building
but you'd have it
space.
after you demoed the building.
Yeah.
I don't think we could ever build a school that have a efficient car line.
You got a pretty
Some are
good
better
one.
than others, though.
One in Hufford,
There is some.
Should
Not just our county.
Hufford worked pretty good.
Cedar Grove, just some background on that campus, it was built in '53. The positive is that building is slab on grade. The FCI is currently 1.37, capacity is 223. And the 100 wing has been renovated in 2003 due to a lightning strike we had that was basically took off just the whole front wing adjoining the dining room. That acreage is 23.69. The electrical is Duke. We have our own site subsurface system, and of course we have a well on that site. This is the property. You see we've got the loop road that comes in, one way in, one out. The wastewater field is in this back quadrant. That includes the repair area. You can see the shingle roof on the front, that's the section that burned. You can see it right here. And this is the dining room, multi-purpose room, and of course the 200 back here, and of course 2 modulars. But that campus, again, other than the 200, we have done some mechanical upgrades to basically barge units to the 200 building in the last 18 to 2 years. There's a lot of slopes on that property, but it is not a bad structure from it being on a slab, and it's not in bad shape. Swift Creek Elementary, its main campus was constructed in '49. Its capacity is 475. Again, the FCI is 1.24. The main campus is not slab on grade, which makes it kind of in the same situation. It wouldn't be worth spending money on that campus, on the main campus to do anything from an FCI standpoint. The other 2 buildings are slab on grade, so I mean they would be worth doing something to at some point if that were the decision. The only other problem is there's a lot of ADA issues on that site. The dining room is in the hole. It's not very sizable. I mean there are some issues if you were to do something here. That'd have to be some money spent. If we put that number back in there, we'd have to do something to the dining room kitchen. We'd have to go, I mean, it needs work. Other than being the main building as well. The other issue is the acreage is 20.8. You do have Duke Energy, sewers, again, is subsurface, and we do have a well. The one issue with the well is we, about 18 months ago, we had a major issue with the well there. I thought we were going to have to close. We ended up being able to save it, but even talking with the state, if something would have happened, there would have been nowhere else on that property to dig a well due to the cemetery being located up front and our subsurface in the back. All of the offsets would have made it impossible for us to dig another well without going and buying more property. Again, you can see the main building, the auditorium building and the little classroom, that slab, and that's the main campus. So again, a lot of work. If you were to try to dump 700-800 kids on that campus, it would be, you would have to spend some money. Points to consider. Did you want to speak on
Absolutely,
this?
this just goes into the House Bill 90, was House Bill 13, just in talking about lowering class size. Obviously, this will be completely phased in by the 21-22 school year, and just gives you an idea of the class sizes, how these class sizes will be decreasing. So by the time we're looking at building any particular structure of opening the school, we will probably be somewhere between the 2021-22 school year before that building is probably completed. And these are the class sizes that we would be mandated by this general statute to be under. So obviously that's gonna mean more class sizes, more need for more teachers, just because the class sizes are going to be smaller at that time.
So the district average is what we anticipate.
The district average is what the state wants each classroom to be at that particular average, but the maximum, they will allow you to go to a particular maximum per classroom, but the average is what the state wants those classes to be.
And we're not there yet. We're far from being there. Does that mean, that means when we thinking about a school, an elementary school, okay, K-5, located in the northern part of the county, that we're gonna think of different than we would think today in terms of number of classrooms we need to meet that capacity of whatever size school we're gonna build. We'll build a 700, 800 capacity, it will take more classrooms to reach that capacity than we would today.
Perfect example of Nashville Elementary, being at 770 students, right now needs about 31 teachers. Using the ratios for the 21-22 school year, they would need at least an additional 6 more teachers, which are 6 more sections. We're already at capacity. So again, you do that through every school, every grade level, which means 4th and 5th grade ratios go up. Around that time, we potentially could be looking at 1 to 30 for 4th and 5th grade classes.
That's why Wade County's raising hell about all this.
Well, I think if you when you build the new school,
Don't put that in paper.
given Nashville, I mean, you'd have to redistrict.
That the board will
Yeah.
look at that and decide on how they want
I don't
to choose to
see
do that
how-
at that time.
With the law, and your current capacity at Nashville, there's gotta be some redistricting somewhere.
Well, with the law the way it is now, you probably be adding classrooms at every elementary school, which means more, bringing back the mobile units we just got rid of.
You're right about the realignment. That's not just gonna be focused on that little group of schools. There's gonna be a system-wide realignment to a certain extent.
But we would need to add classrooms at just about every elementary school with that new law.
It kind of brings up basically what you just hashed over. This slide basically tells you if we were to combine Swift Creek, Cedar Grove, and Red Oak, current population, you're at 740. Nashville Elementary, again, is at current ADM 769, its capacity basically now. Cooper's 635, and capacity is 656. Hubbard Elementary, 469, and capacity is 512. So I guess in saying that, if you look at the schools that will directly be affected in your Red Oak, your Swift Creek, your Cedar Grove area, and looking at a realignment possibility on the outer perimeters, which would include Hubbard, Coopers, and Nashville, just bordering those district areas. Hubbard right now is the only school that can really take on any kids, and if you add the new House Bill 90, that number's going to change. So I mean, you're right. In effect, you're going to have to do something because we don't have any wiggle room to move those kids outside those areas because they're already sitting at near capacity. And again, this is a law that they're saying will take in effect. Will they kick it down the road? We don't know what will happen at that point. Possibilities are adding mobile units to elementaries due to being at or near capacity, or again, realignment of affected schools to alleviate the possibility of adding additional buildings. Any questions?
Mr. Miller, is there a elementary school size that maximum that the district or the board has in their mind is as big as you want to see? Is 1,000 kid elementary school too large? Is it 900? You're looking at 740. what would that number be? Would be something we need to think through, I would think.
I think the board definitely will be discussing that. I know in talks with Mr. Davis, we looked at 800 as the size of the school, but obviously we have to see what the board wants to do and how big we want to try to make this school. But I know the numbers Mr. Davis and I kind of preliminary talked about were about 800.
800, yeah. But then you got to think of this situation with your house bill and what that
Absolutely,
does.
that affects it.
It appears like that it pretty much fills up all of your schools. And then you got to accommodate this situation within the situation.
Absolutely.
You see, some of our newer schools, Mr. Davis, still have older buildings that we built around.
Sure.
Yeah, I would kind of be interested in looking at the FCI, say, for example, Nashville, separating those buildings. Because Nashville is one, it's already over capacity, it's certainly gonna be impacted by, potentially, by what we're doing, and they've got some pretty old buildings.
And
Is
that's-
that a piece of the puzzle we need to be looking at?
Yes, and, you know, the FCI was set by is a standard that we use when we done it. When you go look at a campus that has 3 build dates, and of course, you're looking at Hubbard, Spring Hope, Middlesex, Nashville, where you've got a 1940s building and then you did a build in 2000, your FCI is skewed, because it makes it look like you got a great campus when in theory we do, but we've got the one eyesore sitting out there that needs work. I mean, I can tell you right now, Middlesex and Nashville Elementary, next year I'm gonna have to spend some money on that roof. At some point, you know, you kick the can down the road to the point where you, the old 300 building. I mean, we can only defer costs so long before we have to have an expenditure.
Well, when you defer it too long, the curve on what it costs to fix it
Right.
swings upward too.
Yep.
Well, you know, the original plans that we were doing when we started about 1995 or so with these projects and these schools, National Elementary, it was discussed at that time. I remember Bob Raines was here at that time. We discussed doing something, because he was the old principal of Nash Elementary, of doing a total thing, but we didn't do it. We did a little bit. We didn't do all of it. And then that old wing over there has been sitting there. That's a 29 wing that the classrooms that we're still utilizing. So I mean, part of what we'll probably talk about will be not only building a school in the northern end, but doing something at these fringe schools to help alleviate some of that capacity. Maybe we'll discuss that, I don't know. Is that gonna be part of this town hall meeting? There'll probably be some questions about that, I would assume.
And the idea is just to make sure we gather that information
Right.
from the town and to
Right.
bring back.
Somebody's gonna ask that question.
Absolutely.
You know, if you're gonna move kids into National Elementary, what are you gonna do about the size it is now? You know, that's what people are gonna ask.
Well, if you take into consideration that house bill, I'm like the first thing y'all said, I don't see where you're gonna move kids on this perimeter.
That's
So
right.
you got to do what you're gonna do to take care of what's in the perimeter.
Because a lot of people think that, you know, we started out with 18,000 students and now we're down to 15,000. We should have all these open seats. Because we really haven't closed that many schools. We closed Pope and I guess somewhere Green was closed to a certain extent. But we haven't closed, but really our seats are located in some of our middle schools. That's where the seats are. They're not spread into our elementary situation. And what we've done at
Well,
Willowford.
criteria had to have changed, because when
Right, we
we go
just
to Nash,
moved 70
we had
kids into
1,600 kids there, and you've added on to it numerous times since then. But we accommodated 1,600 from day one. And probably 2/3 of what you got built there now, so something has changed somewhere along the line. And it's constantly changing, and it's not making it
You're absolutely
better
right.
for you, it's always getting going the other way.
You're absolutely
Takes the
right.
whole building more, accommodate the same number of kids.
Were there any other suggestions or anything think we might need to add that the town or people might want to know about in terms of when we go to town hall meetings?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is that, schools I've been involved in, elementary, I've never been involved in one more than 800 students, but still, I think you would want to design it, as I'm sure you would, to be able to put another wing somewhere.
Well, you see, I've seen some let in the state as high as 2,200 kids in elementary.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you build them like that.
Yeah, well, I'm from
I'm not advocating we want that.
My kid doing that.
You can build them like that, because they're built in some of the metropolitan areas.
Sure, yeah.
I think
Thank
today
goodness
was
our commissioners have seen a way to accommodate us so we wouldn't have to do that.
Well, I hope you don't. 200,
That's scary.
I think with the safety issues that we have to face now in our schools, in a school larger than possibly 800, especially elementary, because even having them to understand the evacuation process and what is involved with that, I think any number larger than that kind of hampers our elementary policies and procedures for evacuation. Oh, you're throwing something.
Sorry.
You said be quiet.
Looks like a bullet.
See, I told you safety issues.
I like what you said. Thank you.
The other piece is,
Silver bullet, you better keep-
the other piece of it is we need to avoid at all costs, I would think, is trailers. Because you put trailers on campus, especially elementary, your
Well,
safety
you're
issue
going
is
backwards.
tremendous.
Yeah.
Tremendous. I wish we didn't have any trailers, but I know we do, but we've come a long way.
Yeah.
My man,
Less than
on
we've
the
ever
trailer
had, right,
piece.
Shannon?
Sir?
Less now than we've ever had.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Most of the other thing we hadn't talked about that I think we've got to put in this equation is, which the county can provide for you, we need to plot where our homes are being built. I think permits we're issuing are concentrated pretty heavily in this area. Maybe our highs, or certainly our second highs, then you move to the Rutherford area, then you move to the southern part of the county is where the homes have been built, but we are issuing way more new home permits than we have in a very long time.
Okay.
Average going from 20 to 22, 23 inspections a day to over 70 most days in this residential building. And you look at where the permits are bought, and they are concentrated in 3 basic areas. So we can't leave that out of the equation, and we also need to look at what subdivisions that we have approved already, and where they're located, what size they are, because I know there are several in this area. We would be short-sighted not to try to do a little projection on future growth.
That would be something good to have with these town hall meetings, not only with the pupils where they at, but where permits are
Have been
being.
issued, right?
One of the
I think we could generate that.
One of the feedback that we received from the small groups was just that once we decide wherever the school would be, people will be trying to come to that area, so
That's not a good period.
Have right over there.
They do.
and then that area is just gonna explode even more, so
It-
that
it
was
would-
definitely.
Particularly elementary. That's where they want, that's what they want close.
one last comment that, follow up on what Wayne said about the middle schools, you have capacity. I know y'all know that over the life of a building, it seems like a school will be a high school, and then it'll become a middle school, and then it might become an elementary school. It sounds like you've got more middle schools than you need right now. Has there been any have you looked at making one of those middle schools an elementary school? To deal with the capacity of the,
I think we're gonna look, the board obviously will have to look at everything
yeah.
and see what's gonna be best for the students in the area. I don't think we've
Yeah.
decided on anything in terms of a middle school or closing, but we have to look at all possibilities, I think. And the board will have to make that decision and move forward.
Particularly if that legislation gets gets,
I
it's already
spent,
been enacted.
I spent 13 years as a middle school principal, and Franklin was a middle school principal. One of the things that we talked about consistently, because when I first became principal at Edwards, it was a junior high school. Think about it. A junior high school was 8th and 9th, and Parker was 6th and 7th. So we were really a high school within a middle school. We went to middle school concept. And one of the things, I'll never forget Dr. Arnold coming in from NC State saying, looking at our situation, that our middle schools were totally too large. They don't recommend any more than about 600 at a middle school, 600 to 700 maximum, for a lot of different reasons. the hormones of the kids, everything that goes along and that sort of thing. When we talk about having additional middle schools, I guess if you looked at the capacity that Parker once was, and what Edwards once was, and what Rocky Mount High School once was, and look at what's there now. I know we're moving a high school into Rocky Mount High. Yeah, it looks like we've got a lot of room. But the location of where it's at, if we would take all three of those populations and put them together, it would not be the best situation as far as safety and all the other kind of things.
And also at Southern Middle, we still got a fairly new building, but we got an old building stuck in the middle of it.
Still there.
Commissioner Davis, at the beginning, you said that in taking your ride through, that you saw a lot of houses for sale. Do you think there's a reason?
No, not houses.
Properties for
Large
sale.
tracts of
Tracts of
land.
land, okay.
My point was, I honestly believe the fact that the word is out that y'all are gonna build a school somewhere in that segment has made some second generation landowners
Gotcha.
make it aware that they've got a large tract of land. I don't know what else would have done that other than just.
Some builder come in and say, guys, I'm gonna buy
But I
it.
got clarification on that.
No, I think, Wayne, I'm familiar with some of it, I think it's land that's in, first generations in Dorchester already do not sell land. It has to move second generation, sometimes they don't sell it, but when it gets to third, it's all up in the air, it will be sold. Most of that I see up there it seems to be in second generation hands.
Second generation.
Which means they're not farming it, they're more likely possibly relocated somewhere else. And they are leasing the land out and for farming, and it's barely paid the taxes. You don't
Thanks
know.
for further clarification.
Yeah, so they see a way that they possibly sell a 30, 40, 50 acre tract. And amazingly, I've noticed that the signs are 30, 35, 40, 50 acre tracts. Right on 43. You already ride this.
We tried, Mr. Davis and I did ride through, and we probably gonna have to do it again. We saw a couple of signs, but
Yeah.
seems like probably more popped up. But after our last meeting, we did ride through. and
Okay,
take a
well,
look.
you saw it, 2 years ago, there weren't any signs. And it may be completely, each one of them may be a completely different reason.
Gotcha.
And I just can't help but think it has done, I'm sure one or two of them signs are because of it.
Robbie, I think you're really accurate on that. I have a really good friend that owns property, a lot of property out there in the Red Oak area, and she's second generation. Once something happens to her and her two sons gets a hold of it, it's gone.
It's gone.
It's gonna be gone. And she knows that. She
Yeah.
knows that.
Well prepared.
She's not gonna sell it.
Yeah.
Have you got a schedule for the town halls yet?
We have not, obviously with the summer, and so we have not set those as of yet, but we will be once superintendent gets back and we have a chance to meet with the board probably until August. We'll start trying to get those scheduled, so we have not as of yet.
So when would you anticipate that they would start?
I'm hoping sooner than later, but probably sometime after August, after the board meets in early August.
And our understanding is that the commissioner would be advised of that and be welcome to come.
Absolutely, absolutely.
When these density numbers are completed and the information on permitting for new home, new construction, could we get an advance copy of that just to see what it looks like?
Not a problem, not a problem.
You gonna take care of getting it?
Yeah, I was gonna say the board as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
first.
Well, I think that'll show, that should be helpful when we get to these town hall meetings.
And possibly if this is the presentation you're gonna make, adding that, student information and permitting information, maybe we could get a copy of the total presentation once it's finalized.
Sure.
In advance of the first town hall.
We can do that.
Thank
On that same subject, I'm sure we are in line to submit this application at the appropriate time, which is in August, or you gonna talk about that?
Well, that was just gonna be my next
Okay.
question in terms of the person with the county that I need to work with. I wanna review our last application just to get ourselves ready for whenever the state opens up. So I don't know I can't recall the lady's name.
Patsy
Patsy
McGee.
Patsy McGee.
MCGHEE.
I know Apache McGee in Elizabeth City, don't you?
I know one too.
Yeah,
I will,
different one.
reach out to her just to, so we can both look it over and meet and kind of get ourselves ready, so whenever it opens.
Well,
we'll
I
be
think
ready
you
to
determined
submit.
before that your application was much better than the winning
Absolutely.
application, so it wasn't an application problem, it was a
No,
budget problem.
but we might want to change a word or two here,
Well,
make it sound a little better.
Yeah.
So just take one more look at it, I think wouldn't hurt.
And since we got the one behind us, that was going to get it regardless of the application, I hope it enhances our capabilities, and we, are gonna get some help this time politically, keeping an eye on it a little better than we had available last time
Gotcha.
from a former school board member, so I feel good about that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Senator Horner is gonna follow this one and has actually already laid some groundwork for it.
Gotcha.
It would be a blessing to get $15 million. Mr. Landlord's not gonna let us take much less than that, so we got to get 15 million.
Yeah.
Just
Your
wanna,
lottery set off.
in keeping in track with our time, I just wanted to, our next point in the meeting is just establishing the next meeting dates. So I don't know, do we still wanna stick with every, 3 weeks? Was it every 3
I think
weeks?
it's
I think it's been a little longer than 3.
once a month.
Yeah,
Once a month.
more longer month.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have been doing first Tuesdays. The next one would be after our board meeting on that Monday, the sixth. And then, because of the holiday, that's how we ended up on the second
Right.
Tuesday.
Wednesday.
I mean, what, that's
Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah, Wednesday, I'm sorry, Wednesday. Yeah. So,
Well, it gives you the 8th or the 15th.
Mhm. So August 15th.
15th would be better for me, I'll be back
I
in
won't be here on the
another
15th.
conference.
Be in
So we wanna
Virginia.
go with Wednesday, August 15th, 3 o'clock, your place?
I won't be here because I'll be in Virginia, but I don't have to be here.
Mm.
Where is Mr. Bellfield?
I don't know where he is.
You know where he is, Steve? Reckon he just forgot us or something. Well, I know we usually try to remind me, it's me pointing
Yeah,
out.
I'm sure Janice did, she's
Well, when were they leaving? In the morning or?
Tomorrow.
Thursday.
Tomorrow morning, right, okay.
Brian, one of the things that probably would be necessary, well, not necessary, would they like to see, will we be in a position that we will be able to have date for those town hall meetings?
We can definitely push for
I
it.
would, because we've actually, from the facilities committee piece, we've actually postponed those meetings 2 months. 2 months. So we need to move as quickly as we can on that.
So
definitely
you,
push for it.
you guys all right with the
Calm
15th?
down.
I may or may not be in town, but
Just that one day.
Mr. Dahl, you go for the
I'm not
15th?
sure.
8th, how about the 8th?
I think
That's
That's
Ian's-
what we had said.
Ian's not
You're
gonna be
not-
in,
you're not
are you
here
not
for
gonna
the
be in
8th.
town?
I won't be here.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I can do it
I'll be
any
in
other
trouble.
day that week.
So I think the
But
15th and
the
3.
vice chair, we can still go on, so that we don't get too far off schedule.
What did you
The
say?
8th,
Uh-huh.
Wednesday the 8th.
The only thing I said to Brian, you guys were talking, but what we're 2 months behind on these town hall meetings.
We are.
So when the time we get to that August board meeting to approve those town hall meetings, we need, our next meeting in this group, we need to be specific when those town hall meetings are
When
gonna
is your
be.
school board meeting?
We
The
meet
first
on the
Monday.
6th,
Oh, perfect.
Well, let's do a date then. Oh, you couldn't be here date then.
but that's all right,
How about the
that's why you
9th?
have vice chair.
How about the 9th? Will you be-
The 9th is good. Oh, no, I'll be gone to Charlotte, I'll be out of town for a whole week.
How about Tuesday, the 7th?
What about the
You
7th?
said
The whole
you'd be
week.
gone
I
the
can
whole
do the
week.
7th. That'll be the day after our,
Oh, I'm fine with that.
You can do the 7th?
mm-hmm.
August 7th?
Y'all gonna stay here all day, I gotta think of that.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, August the 7th, 3 o'clock
Yes, ma'am.
in Nashville,
We're gonna be in Nashville either way, but at our place.
at your place,
Yeah.
okay, we'll come to your place. Now that I know how to get around in
We'll
here.
be in the Claude Mayo Administration Building.
Right, okay. So
Yeah.
we have, August 7th, 3 o'clock, Nashville, Claude Mayo Building. I'll send this
So I
out to
guess
my people.
that information on density and new construction that could possibly be available.
Yeah.
By
I'll-
that
I'm
day.
gonna try to get it plotted in the next day or
Yeah,
two.
Okay,
we
great.
If you can just send that to me and I'll make sure we get it.
Well, that's
to Mr.
very
Davis.
interesting to see what that would
Absolutely.
be.
Could you, before you close it out, I know you're finance director, if I remember right, she left at the end of June.
Yes, sir, she retired. Yes.
Have we employed one yet?
We have a interim CFO that the state has approved at this point.
And who is
Ms.
that?
Sheila Wallace, Ms. Sheila Wallace.
She's an employee.
She was our
Already.
old director of federal programs,
Uh-huh.
and she is our now interim CFO.
Okay.
And the state superintendent has approved that, provided his blessing as well for that.
Okay.
So the state superintendent, is that the only position they have to approve? Or superintendent also? Does-
For that position, that's the position that
CFO.
CFO position has to be approved
I didn't know.
and go through the state
Is that right?
superintendent, yeah.
Surprised at that.
Has that always been that way? Or is that,
I don't know if it's new, it was a shock to me, but it's something, the process we had to go through.
Not everybody, evidently.
Absolutely. So with that being said, if there's nothing else,
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Let me look at my notes, I'm sorry. The other thing, we always talk about, or Dr. Jeffries talks about how bad of a problem attendance is and how far kids get behind, and we have evidently an attendance issue in some areas. Do we have, and I asked this because I read something in the paper this morning, do we have truancy officers in Nash County? It appeared like Edgecombe was getting ready to employ some, and I just wanted, I hadn't heard that word in many years till I saw it in the paper this
Our
morning.
social workers have that responsibility, and we have a social workers assigned to a lot of our different schools. We don't have one for every school, but we have enough to be able to handle the attendance piece.
So you don't have that person that used to would come and pick us up at home?
The hatchet
No.
man,
Well,
Mr. Pittman.
I mean, we had them that would come to your house and see why you wanted school,
yeah.
And pick them up off the street.
and pick them up off the street, you're right. Is that legal now? Could that help any to?
I don't know, but I will definitely let the suit know and we'll look into it. I don't even know if it's legal.
Well,
But we will,
read this morning,
Sure.
this morning's paper, and they looked
Absolutely.
at hiring retired deputies
Mm.
to do that, which I just thought was a decent idea. As bad a problem as I've heard y'all say,
Mhm.
for attendance, and it's got to be, I mean.
We do have some teachers that actually call students too, to find out why they're not there.
Mhm.
Enough conscientious teachers that
Right.
take responsibility to do that.
Well, I know why they're probably not there most of the time, it's the quality of home life that they live in, but, which would mean somebody needs to see what's going on. Pretty much, I'm getting into y'all's business a little more, but I'll just pass that along that I
Sheriff
read.
is recommending in
Yeah,
Edgecombe County. I don't know how.
That's correct, it was a recommendation from the sheriff, and he suggested possibly retired deputies. That's all I had, sir, I'm sorry.
Okay. Anything else, Madam Chair?
I do see one more thing. Have we got our end of year grades as of yet? I see some school districts has published some things. Have we published ours?
We have not, I believe they're still working on our end of year grades. That was part of, we were looking at some of that information, so it has not come out as of yet, but soon it will be out shortly.
Wilson County sent theirs out.
I just saw it. I read the papers over
They
the
came
long
up
traffic area, and I saw Halifax has come out.
Mm-hmm.
Wilson County is out also?
Right,
Mhm.
Wilson County is out.
Over a week ago.
Over a week ago.
Yeah, it's been at least.
Well, it was the ones I saw up in Halifax County.
Anything that would come out would be tentative until September anyway, if the
Exactly.
state approves them, so.
Exactly.
Shows some fairly good improvement over there.
In Wilson.
According to the paper.
Yeah.
Easy now.
Are you trying to say that's fake news?
They have.
Saying anything.
I would think on
Till the state
Discord.
releases the final result.
Yeah, I would think on Discord, they'd probably reprint what they were given.
I would think if they're up, they were mighty proud to put them out, that's why they put them on ours.
You're gonna take away that ABC.
One of the things at our last meeting, we discussed, and you guys said that you take a look at it, that we were having a problem with our city high school with a grant that we thought we were gonna get from the state. And I was wondering if you guys have had a chance to discuss that and the possibility of maybe helping us.
We have discussed it briefly, right at the end of finishing up our budget. Of course, we pretty much finished up at that point in time. We're now waiting for the groundbreaking, so we'll know what we're buying into. I'm just being funny about it.
Well, you were emphatic in saying to us that, you know, we can adjust our budget any time.
We
It doesn't
can.
have to be
We can.
right now. It can be in September,
I
October,
got
whatever.
in trouble for making that statement.
That's
Well, I think he also said
And you did receive
that,
your invitations.
We did it.
I think he also said to formally request what you would like and what it would be for too, so I don't know if we've seen that or not.
Yeah.
Any type of request.
You give them that request right away.
Absolutely.
And we don't get it. We don't ask for it, we won't get it, right?
Well,
As we
Formal.
shall
whether you
receive.
get it or not, I mean, you gotta ask for it.
Chairman, I have to leave to go to Nashville, Tennessee as soon as we get through here. I'm gonna try to be back Monday at 2 o'clock, and I will be there.
Well, thank you
If
so
I'm
much.
not, I'm hung up in Greensboro somewhere, I promise you. But I think I can get back.
Go on your private jet. Everybody's buying it.
It's tied up this week.
Oh,
Well,
Lord.
thank you all. I guess
Thank
we're
you.
Thank y'all.
adjourned at this point. Thank you.